Welcome to the BPM360 podcast. I'm Russell.
And I'm Caspar. And together we will help you navigate the treacherous waters of the BPM adoption journey. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Hello and welcome to another BPM360 episode. Russell, my friend, how are you today?
I'm fine, although the weather's outside is really terrible. In Germany, it started raining, cats and dogs, as the English say, and it's that time of the year when you start, lighting up the fires, turning on the heatings, getting all the maintenance ready, getting out the electric blankets and stuff like that, and preparing for the deep dives into interesting topics like BPM.
Yeah. I just had the first Christmas song up on the radio in the car the other day. We start really early with that, but at least you're not traveling at this moment, so you're at home. So we can do a very relaxed one, and we have a proper guest today. Russell, would you like to introduce him before we let him introduce himself?
Absolutely. So I think this is on my occasion. The last time we talked about, the merger with Alphabet, I said, okay, we need to hear the other side of the story and how the BPM side is developing. So I gave a shout out to Marc, which I've known for a really long time. I have a great anecdote on that as well.
We'd love to hear that.
And I was really happy to see that he responded, although he's busy flying around all the world, convincing people around the value of BPM. He found time to join us in our show. So I'm really stoked about that. And welcome, Marc.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me today. It's really a big pleasure. And I think I know both of you for a long time. So it's really cool to have this intimate meeting today and get some talk about what is the current state of BPM, what's the future, what's going on in the market. Really happy to discuss that with you.
Yeah, so before we dig into that, for the audience that maybe do not know you yet, then definitely give us an introduction. So I know, just Caspar, by the way, I know Marc from 2005 when I started at Idea Share. And everybody going to Idea Share got a boot camp of a week where you first learned ARIS, then you learned Solution Manager, and then you learned sales, which meant going out late night and learning the good old trade of sales.
Yeah.
And Marc was there and he was leading the boot camp. So that was my first impression, somebody really deep down in SAP and ARIS topics. And we've done some great projects together as well. So Marc, hand over to you. Give us an introduction to yourself. Please also some private stuff so we see that there's a human being behind all this business and BPM.
Yeah, for sure. I had the pleasure to be in a very warm environment this week in Malaga in Spain, together with my wife, and that is also our hobby, to really travel around the world to see and find new things. Great Arabic water in Malaga. I think I really enjoyed that. A lot of history, and it reminded me as well on some Arabian or Middle East topics, Russell, that we did together. It was a lot warmer, let's say 50 degrees in the summer. So Saudi Arabia was a nice trip and a great experience at that time. So what is my history? I think the passion for processes, for improvement, I think is right now 30 years old when I started at Idea Share. So I did the first SAP project that time using ARIS already. And I brought ABB to their process-oriented quality management system for ISO 9000 in 1994, I think a few years back. But it's still a big topic. So I think from that perspective, then I went a little bit around customer relationship management, about standards and procedures, how you really do this process optimization in reality. What are the steps, the phases, how you do that best. And being a long time on the consulting side, I then was asked to move to the, let's say, other side of the house, not to say the dark side, which is the product, the engineering, product management, R&D, support, and other topics to really lead the product part of ARIS and really drive it forward. And yeah, that is right now my responsibility, to help growing ARIS, to help innovating the product with our customer success teams, with professional services, and many more teams across the globe that are really passionate for helping our customers to improve and stay competitive.
Nice. Sounds good, Marc. Sounds good. And in full transparency, obviously, that we like here at the show, we worked together for about 6 years. When I joined Software AG in 2018, and then up until early 2024, when I decided to make a different step in my life. And I've always valued that, Marc, so you know that. But we're not here, at least not to talk about my career. So this is you on at the guest seat. So let's focus on that. But I always like a bit of transparency, in our podcast. Russell, I think you have quite a program prepared for our guest today. So I'm going to let you drive this.
Well, how should we start about it? So we got, on the one hand, we were, the real shout out to you, Marc, was all around the strategy, and of course, I mean that's obvious. ARIS has been on the market, I think, for such a long time, and all the topics that have been popped up. Let's just take one example, like the process mining topic. 2000 that's been, as an idea and as a product, it's been on the market with you for a long time. But just give us maybe your current impression now on all this, let's say, hype around process mining, all the hype around these mergers of enterprise architecture meeting process management in the context of business transformation. And a lot of, let's say, rumors and talks about the situation of ARIS. Maybe you can give us like a bit of a snapshot of where you currently see ARIS, where it's come from its like vision, and how that is moving forward, and especially maybe on a global scale, what your ambitions are around this topic. So that's something to get. I think I'd love to go into deeper depths as well around certain capabilities, but let's start top down. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's a good question. I hope you have booked the next 8 hours to explain all the details.
We got some charts as well.
Yeah.
I've got 100 slides prepared. Just kidding. I think the trend that we are seeing in the market is that business process management is really evolving from, let's say, an isolated practice to really a company-wide topic, covering all different aspects, to really designing, optimizing, analyzing business processes to really drive the transformation and operational excellence in a company. And on the other side, I think you mentioned that already, measure the executed process in reality, what we normally call process mining, enriched and merging with task mining, to put that perspective there as well, to really help customers to optimize their way of working and get real insights in the reality, and also combine that with the, let's say, to-be world. Then the other big aspect is combining process management with the risk and compliance space. And last but not least, to help automate and execute these processes. I think when we were young, I think we called it workflow. So really helping to, let's say, bring the processes to life. And I think that is what we see as one suite. I think in the past, we had different products and pieces. Now it's really one ARIS that we are talking about, one integrated suite. And I think that is what I see as the big trend in the market, and all the mergers and buying products. What others do in the market is exactly going into that direction, to provide in full-blown end-to-end solution. And no podcast without AI. I think
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, there it is. Ping.
you forgot it.
Oh my. I'm
So,
just gonna take a note.
yeah. Okay, one buzzword bingo for me. But I think for us, AI is really the technology enabler to support our, I would say, product vision. And I think that brings it a little bit to life what we are striving for. To your question around the different capability areas, and I think you mentioned enterprise architecture. I think that is an area that we do with ARIS for decades. And I think we were the leader in the Gartner EA quadrant before Software AG acquired Alphabet. So we have a strong capability background in that area. But in the last years, I think we focused and positioned Alphabet. I think that is was our strategy. And for sure, Alphabet has a lot of, let's say, additional capabilities in strategic portfolio management and other areas. So with now Alphabet being part of other companies,
Yep.
I think we can now concentrate again in ARIS to position the EA capability within ARIS as well. And we can and will do that.
Okay.
So
Right.
there is no, let's say, need to acquire someone in that space. I think we can and will do it with our capabilities. And I think that is also the good news for our customers that has ARIS and Alphabet integrated, that we will still continue to support the integration. But on the other side, we will support customers that has other products in their stack. Think about LeanIX or others that might be there. I think there we have the same level of integration that we can provide to customers. That
Yeah,
is
and that's
Russell, if I can, just
Caspar,
real quick,
please.
just because that is an interesting remark that I just want to, it's difficult to get in between Russell when he's
No,
really on
that's not
fire.
true. Look, we're gonna do it with hand
and
signs.
I was talking
Everybody,
too long probably as well.
No,
everybody takes.
you're the guest.
Caspar, you have one question, then it's my turn.
I got one question. Very good. What I see happening, and I'm just trying to bounce this off you, Mark, if you see that trend as well or not. What I see is that the BPM capability starts to act more as a real central point where you have information coming in from multiple different source systems. So we talked about EA, which is one, which I think traditionally is the one that it started all with. But I also now see it happening with HR systems and quality management systems. And it really doesn't matter where it's coming from, because a lot of that source information, like roles that typically might come from HR systems, applications we talked about, risks that might come from systems like Archer or other types of vendors, they more and more go into BPM. And it's all the company clients I'm talking to, a lot of them say we need to be able to have that integration being done relatively easily. Is that something that you see happening as well in the marketplace?
The easy answer could be just a yes.
Yeah. Okay, but okay, so please elaborate.
But I think it's really the demand that we are seeing. I think our marketing colleagues would say, hey, we need a single source of truth. So that is exactly what our customers are asking for. And that's why we are investing, for example, in our APIs a lot, to really bring content in and out of ARIS in a very easy manner. Integrating with HR, but also into Jira, Confluence, you name it, for let's say more the IT side of the house. Risks you mentioned, but there are so many different aspects. We're talking about KPIs, we're talking about simulation, where we also need cost data and other stuff. So I think the integration capability is an important one. For sure. And I think that is a little bit depends on the maturity curve of the customer. But the more they're getting into the topic, the more they see the need to bring all the information together and link it, because only then you can analyze the impact. If you change something here, what happens there? So then you can really get hold on your big spaghetti.
All right, cool. Thanks. Russell, back to you. That was my one question.
I wanted to ask the same thing. That's a bit of a
sorry,
bummer,
man.
isn't it? No, seriously. So it does go in a similar direction. So what I see in customers that ARIS isn't, although it even has vast capabilities, you will always find a situation with the customer where he will need the integration. And in the past, say I think ARIS, well, most probably still is one of the best tools to integrate with Solution Manager. Yeah. And I have a lot of cases with customers where we do the integration with LeanIX, and so these are also the capabilities there on both sides are working. And what I think, so now I'm going to not formulate a question, I'm going to pose some kind of like a message here. I think the big challenges in this, where I think ARIS does have an advantage to a certain extent, is to have a proper integration. You need to think about not so much, you need APIs, yeah, let's agree, you need technology. But what really makes it stick is the methodology. And so having like the capabilities in ARIS to have, like, say, from a balanced scorecard down to a risk control diagram to something like even an enterprise architecture model. And it's not so much that you have to then replace the single point of truth of an external system, but you're capable to communicate and integrate. So be like this middle platform that manages then an integrated system. So I personally think that is something that you have to think of. But you always have to find this balance of, as a provider, I guess, providing the capability if they need it, but being able to integrate if they have a different setup, especially in an enterprise environment.
Yeah.
But that's the big challenge, I guess.
I think this flexibility is what we offer, and I think we are proud of our, let's say, rich meta model with about more than 100 model types or whatever, and we have an open meta model. So if you think you need something special, I think you can create it, and that's why it's also easy for us to comply to new topics like the EU AI Act, which every company in Europe needs to apply, to say, hey, how do we assess if an AI application is risk conform, or what is the risk appetite of the company applying AI and other topics? So this flexibility gives us the lever to also help customers in new upcoming regulations or topics that occur in the market.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's the challenge I see is that, of course, you have so many capabilities. Also, the whole transition into the cloud. That's where a lot of small market players, even if it's just, let's take a complete different example, like Monday, something like a small set of business capabilities in the cloud, and they gain a lot of attraction, especially with Gen X people, because it's super simple. And when you get on the maturity level of saying, yes, but the world is a bit more complicated, then you're just having to do maybe complex integration or something like that. So I think this is something where, so how do you see yourself on this journey there of actually balancing the speed and the cumbersome of high maturity, I would say?
I think that is this easiness on the one hand side and the high complex demands on the other side. I think that's not easy to balance and probably not known to everyone. I think we have also a Visio-like ARIS starter edition. So we call it ARIS Basic. Yeah, I think it has only six model types.
Yeah.
So
I get that.
you can, I'd say, design a flow, an org chart, a data model, and more or less that's it. Pre-configured, ready to run, very easy. And then you can, let's say, scale up if you need it. Because many customers know the high-end edition, which is good. But I think if you're, let's say, in the starting point, of your journey. I think you can also take the starter edition basic, or you go to the advanced in the middle, or you go to the enterprise edition. And I think we are providing these capabilities on-prem and in the cloud as SaaS. And that is probably one of the changes, or I think also nothing new, but the demand that we see from our customers going to SaaS is huge. I think in the Americas, it's probably 95% of the business that I'm doing there is SaaS.
Yeah.
And even, let's say, markets where you would think, they are not there, like Germany, sorry for that. We also have government RFPs where they're asking for SaaS. We have customers in Saudi Arabia where you would say, hey, that's an on-prem area. They're going that direction. I think we have the other extreme in Australia. Yeah, that's a typical SaaS company. They don't ask for anything else.
Yeah.
For them, it's the normal way of working. You buy software as a service, and that's it. So, but this trend is progressing for sure. But we still have also the other options for
exactly.
the customers that say, I can't do it, I don't want it, I'm not ready, or there might be regulatory reasons. I think we have a big, how should I phrase that? They're in the defense space and producing tanks and helicopters for the army. So they have very special regulations where they can't go to the cloud, and I need to accept that. I think that's why I think this flexibility is one demand that we have to fulfill.
Yeah, and that's just a different case for the pure cloud offerings that have been developed. That I guess that nowadays it's the narrative is the other way around. You're saying, you know what, there's still customers that need on-prem, and you go, really? You know, it's like before it was the other way around. Said, hey, I heard of a pharmaceutical company going SaaS, and now it's the other way around. You know, you have to look for the cases where they although pharmaceutical companies with their regulations are already cloud first strategy, sometimes they're pulling back on some places, but that's a different story. But I think that is a known market in itself. So Mark, also you were just saying about that was quite cool as a good bridge over there. So you're saying Australia, everything's SaaS. Certain industries, definitely you don't want to be hackable, so that you want to have an on-prem. But maybe just give us some, just on a high level, how do you see, are the trends like global in general on the capability side? What about the dynamics? How do you see differences here? Yeah, also taking the good old, DACH, where the origin of Software AG is versus, EMEA, APAC. What dynamics do you see there? Do we need to relocate? Do I need to relocate from Germany? That's the question.
Yes, you do. But I let Mark answer.
I think probably the first thing you often said Software AG. I think that's probably one thing that, not announced, but I think can communicate that our external branding is ARIS and will be ARIS for the future. So we will put ARIS front and center. So Software AG will be somewhere in the back, but it's nothing we want to, let's say, go to market with, to make it easier for customers, because many customers don't really understand what was this software. What kind of software? And it was an AG. Now we are a GmbH because we went private. So it's a little bit confusing. So to make it easy for our customers and probably you, we can just talk about ARIS. But coming back to your question on the global maturity levels, I think we see the demand for ARIS and process management overall. I think it's a global thing. But for sure, there are, I would say, local differences. I think if we look at the Americas first, I think we see there that they are very UI driven, fast results, fancy things. So their process mining is probably a good starting point to get the discussion rolling. And depending on the industry, regulated environments, banks, they really think about also about process design and then go to mining. But if you go to a, let's say, more startup American style company, they want to see results, they want it fast, they want it sexy. So process mining is a good start. I think in Australia, it is probably a little bit more mixed. I think there we have both main drivers, the government, for example, that is really standardizing in Australia, but also in New Zealand, their entire, let's say, way of working on ARIS. And that is really design-led with reference processes, reference structures, and they're somehow getting into the process mining space. We have a lot of banks in Down Under that are coming from the risk side. So I think there it's called CPS 230, which you would translate into the European language as DORA, so operational resilience. That is a big driver there, which also combines the understanding of your current way of working to see the impacts if you are hacked, but also to use process mining to understand what variants I have in my process and what happens if I get any kind of, let's say, crisis. The European market, I think there we have some main drivers. I think you mentioned DACH. I think that is for sure a home turf, but I think we also see a lot of traction in the UK. So they're really getting very intensively behind BPM. But also, Spain, Italy, and many others in Europe are really getting into that topic. And
Is there like a catch up there? And if you look at it, say the initiatives that I have the impression in some industries it's very much IT driven by all the pressure they have on digitalization. But you also mentioned like the regulatory aspects that may be driven from risk departments. So, but in talking about the dynamics of EMEA, is there like a catch up there where they're like catching up to other regions that are just been like 20 years up front, they've always been doing this? Or is it like a different dynamic where they're saying they're going to the next level from a maturity level? Or is it, how would you compare it on that level?
I think 2 weeks back, I was at our user group in the UK, and we had very great customers there. And I was really impressed what they have done. Not sure if they've jumped up the ladder faster because they have all the learnings and experience that is in the market, let's say in the European market. So from that perspective, I think they really are doing a great job from my point of view. So I think that is really, I would not say it's a catch up. I think they're really getting the right, also sponsorship. I think that was the other interesting one. I think the successful cases that was really C-level or C-1 management attention and driving these operational excellence initiatives. And that is really a top-down push from a management level. So they really understand that process is key to differentiate, to grow the revenue, but also to keep the cost under control and stay compliant at the end.
But just to dive into that a little bit, Mark, because it's interesting, and I have the same experience, but I also sometimes experience that certainly for Southern Europe, and Southern Europe can start as northerly as France, I would say. Sometimes it's just a language barrier. It's if you need to be explaining to a Spanish company, you almost required to do that in Spanish if you really want to have an impact.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but my Spanish is a bit rusty, or better yet, non-existent. So you need to have a lot of local expertise if you want to penetrate those markets. But the real question I want to get to, and that's of course always a bit of a sensitive topic, but I'm here talking to two people that live in Germany. I always had the feeling, as certainly the last 5 to 10 years, that the German industry or the German companies sort of had a bit of a standstill when it came to the development of BPM. I still hear them talk a lot about quality management and ISO certification, while I think that the UK and the Benelux and the Nordics have taken a couple of steps ahead and went into transformation and compliance and, well, the other part of compliance or process
Yeah.
excellence. Is that something that you recognize? And where does that come from? That's what I'm wondering. I mean, I live close to Germany, but you're German, so maybe you probably know better.
I think it's probably more a perception thing
Okay.
that as we are, let's say, educated in universities, process management for decades,
Mhm.
and in some companies it is seemed to be, let's say, old style, and they want to do other agile or whatever
Yeah.
things, which for me is not conflicting.
No.
But often I think it's more a perception topic. And I
Yeah.
think if they really do it right, I think they can achieve a lot. But I think it's also a management style thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And probably and you're right, I think we have a lot of great customers in the Nordics, the oil industry, for example. They're very advanced
Yeah.
in how they see this topic, how, let's say, complete and holistic they approach that, and also how they roll it out to their employees, to really to each and everyone in the organization. And I think that is really impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I
And
think the sponsorship topic you mentioned, yeah, you see the companies driving it down from sea level. And here, maybe in Germany, it's the federal system. Yeah, we have the Federal Republic, where although you have in Berlin a lot of like politics, everything is also distributed and discussed on federal level. So we can't even agree upon a like in a curriculum for the school standard-wise across the whole of Germany. So maybe that's a bit of the mentality that you have in your leadership style, which has its advantages as well, because there is a
Sure.
lot of
Yeah, sure.
free own thinking on little departments. But sometimes to get these initiatives, really to let's say leapfrog onto a certain level of maturity, the federal way takes longer. Just to be polite on that level.
yeah, I think I think that's what we have seen in the Middle East. I think we have done great projects in Dubai. When the boss says, "This is my vision, I want to go for that," I think then the company is really behind that and driving that, and it
Yeah.
will not be discussed every meeting again. Does it make sense? Could we do it differently? I think that's probably also the German style to question everything again and again and again. And that makes speed a little bit more complicated.
But I can't help it. The country I come from is not
Mm.
known for its top-down approach. We say the Dutch, we criticize everything and everybody all the time, even within our own companies. And I noticed that I worked for a Dutch chemical company for 20 years. You would say "du" against the CEO of the company and not "sie" in German. But still, the speed of development sometimes is significantly quicker. And it's I don't want to. I'm not trying to put Germany down, because we have great examples of wonderful BPM stuff coming out of Germany, and most BPM platforms actually come from Germany. That's where I think, where for me the dichotomy is between how can a country be so innovative when it comes to platforms that support BPM, and at the same time it seems to be somehow, I would say, stuck in that quality management thinking. And of course, it's exaggerated. Don't get me wrong, but
I think there are also
somewhere it
great
feels
customers
strange.
in Germany being really ahead. Just thinking about some retail customers that I have in mind. So, but there are different ones, or I think looking at Russell, some pharmaceutical ones. But yeah, there are cultural differences that you need to take into account if you think about rolling out, really bringing business process management to life. And I think that's like the language that you mentioned. I think that's also what we now see, and that's why we're heavily going into, let's say, more partners all around the world. Like in Spain. Let's stick to that example. I think I just can order dos cervezas and then I'm done. So that's why we need also local partners that understand the culture, the language, and also the way of working in these companies. And I think we have big, really good examples in Spain, very big companies, but it's a different, style. It starts what I needed to learn when I was in Spain just last week. If you want to go to a restaurant, probably 8:30 is the earliest one that you find an open one. And they do it till 11 in the night when you will not get nothing in Germany. So different styles, different countries, but that makes it interesting. I think that's why we're going.
Cool. Thanks for that. Russell, what's more on your wish list now that we have Marc?
So we've gone from the top down. We've gone once around the world. Just wondering if we should dig down into some of the deeper topics. So you're mentioning the process mining, and I also know that from an integration perspective, there's been a long journey on getting the process mining as a separate like tool in the ARIS environment into the area of your platform. And what I'm always intrigued is that how still maybe it's different if you have a top-down approach and you have a C-level commitment from sponsorship, but still a lot of these topics, companies are still happy to have their own little tool with their own little capabilities. So although you're saying that there is a trend that these methodologies are driven top-down and they're more holistic, that doesn't necessarily always play out on the department level, where each and everybody has their own requirements on their own little neat tool. So how does that actually play out for you when you're going to the markets and you're seeing these demands popping up on a more of a local level? How much value do you think you can bring to the party when there's like these single buying centers, each having their own requirements and not really talking to each other? Is this something that bridging the gap between these different mindsets and methodologies is something that you and your partners really address a lot, or is it that you go out to the market and say we need to serve each and every case by itself, and then you do the reconciliation of the family later? So I guess that must be a real big challenge, having this big picture and this big platform in your head, but seeing that the market is always, there's little competitors jumping into little spaces with specialist capabilities, and you're always fighting a battle against the big competitors, and which are on your peer level, but also fighting off little like speedboats, like disrupting your market. So what is your take on that? Do you just neglect them more and say you're thinking big and you're looking for customers that also think big to be able to carry this story? Or is there also a demand there to cover these little speedboats? And I mean, you had ARIS Basic as one topic, but that's just around the modeling. I think there's a lot of other topics there that you cover from a capability, but there's always these speedboats around disrupting your market penetration.
I think there are two aspects or two answers to that. One is more from a product perspective, and the other one is from a go-to-market perspective. I think if we start with a product perspective, I think it is important that we also are able to compete with these speedboats, but also with the niche single product vendors. So if you think about a pure mining, pure modeling, pure GRC or EA vendor, I think from a product perspective, we have the right to win. And I think that is also proven by the analysts, if you think about Gartner or Forrester and the like. There are always ones that are a little bit better, or we are a little bit better than others, but I think we are playing in the leaders quadrant or game or wave or whatever you call it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think that gives us the right to win from a product perspective in also different single capability areas.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end, and that leads a little bit to the go-to-market discussion, I think one of our USPs is that you can start with one capability and then enrich it easily to the others.
Yeah.
So like we started, I think you model your processes first, and then you want to do EA, or you want to do risk, you want to measure, or you want to automate. I think it is still the same software, and it's still the same server, the same SaaS environment. You just say, I want to add this license or this capability.
Mm-hmm.
And a good example for that is if you have a modeling user in ARIS, he has the right to do mining. So if you think, hey, this user should do both, there's no additional cost. So that makes it easy for customers also to move between these two worlds and enrich the capabilities if needed. If they start with one area and then go to the other in a year, I'm fine with that as well.
Yeah.
From a go-to-market perspective, I think our strategy for the ARIS team is that we have a limited set of direct sales people. I think that is the normal way of working. So we want to, let's say, focus on more the bigger, more complex, let's say, use cases. And on the other side, we have a huge partner ecosystem that also do these big, complex use cases and transformations. But we have also others that are happy to do smaller entry-level projects and then grow the customer from there. So I think that gives us at the end the scale that we need to grow our business, because that is our ambition also with the private equity behind us to really double the ARIS business in the next 3-4 years. And that needs all the investments in go-to-market, in product, and all the innovation that really drives the growth at the end.
Okay. So in that context, one question: workflows. So one of the areas we see, and we discussed this, Caspar and I said, that's not BPM, that's BP execution or something like that. So we have a good discussion out there. But you have something, the term BPM, when you Google it or whatever, there's always a lot of platforms there that also focus around process-driven, let's say, automation, and coming up with, say, from a model to execute somehow like this area. Now, I do understand that ARIS it's always like this classic BPM business transformation like platform. But looking at, say, the market space and the demand, and of course we have workflow capabilities in there. Is there any? How do you see this distinction between these two platforms that have a different, let's say, view on what their key capabilities are and what they're driving? The one drives more the automation within the platform, and you're driving the transformation on a management level. Is there an overlap here? Is it clearly distinguished? Is there any drive where ARIS will be adding more capabilities in the direction of execution? What is your take on that?
I think automation is an important area that our customers need, because designing and measuring processes is good and important, but at the end you need to execute them somehow. Is it in an SAP or Salesforce? I think one way to execute it with some RPA bots, okay, somehow, not that high demand anymore, but at the end you need an orchestration or automation layer that really makes the design happen. And that is an area that we are investing in and focusing on. Our code name for that is ARIS Flows, and we will see a first version of that in the next release already, which is, let's say, coming from the ARIS process governance capabilities that helps customers to do the process flow of process management.
Mm.
But what technically is the difference if the process flow is a new employee onboarding? From the capability standpoint, very similar. And I think that's what we are leveraging to really bring workflows closer to ARIS and bring them into the suite as one integral part of it. And so I see also that converging, really coming back to the suite story in the beginning, to really bring the processes to life at the end, and then making it a closed loop. If I would call it model to execute, that's probably more political or whatever discussion.
There's some claims on that term. You'll get sued. Don't do it. Don't do it.
The term is a little bit, but the idea is still correct. That if you design it, you want to execute it, you want to measure it, you want to control it. I think that is what customers need. And probably there are different flavors of workflows. Easy ones, high end-to-end, complex, high integration stuff. So there is probably space for many different solutions in the market, but we want to have a piece of that market.
Yeah,
Very
that's
good.
true.
Russell, with your speed of questioning, we got room for one more.
Oh, then up to you, my friend. I've been asking all my questions.
Yeah. Oh, you did. Oh, very good. Well then, let me
I'm
think
the
I have one.
prompter. I told you I'm the prompter.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. So the question I have, Mark, is I mean, we see the trends in the BPM market. They become more complex and more holistic, I would say. It's becoming more a combination of smaller use cases blending into bigger use cases. So that's absolutely fine. What would you say is, where would you be in let's say 5 years from now? I'm not going to ask you where you're going to be working. I just want to know, where do you think ARIS is going to be in about 5 years from now? Just
Malaga.
give you Malaga. Well, yeah, you might shift the seat to Malaga. That might be good. Yeah. So fiscally, it might be Switzerland. It's always good. But no, seriously, so where do you think in about 5 years from now that you're going to be as an organization, as a company? Not where you're going to be in terms of organization, but from a capabilities point of view, I would say. The rest is not interesting, I would say.
Yeah. I think ARIS is there and will be there. And I think we will bring this area into what I would call, let's say, comparable to autonomous driving, so that we have processes that really can be self-creating, self-regulating, self-driving, to really help people to stay on track, or probably hands off, and the process runs itself, to really make it really easy and sexy to do processes. The other main area that I see is on the democratizing BPM. Nice wording, but at the end, in the past, when we three had a lot of hair, BPM was, I'd say, an expert job. You really need to be the expert in a topic. You need to know the tool. It was not easy to use. And nowadays, also with the help of AI, everybody can contribute his knowledge into this single source of truth. And everybody should be able to consume it and ask questions. How can I improve the process? Where's the bottleneck? What is the best way? Whatever question you might ask. So that is really, everybody can be part of BPM. And the other area that I see is really on the augmented BPM. Because again, when we were young, it was very, let's say, document centric. It was a separate tool. You need to open a separate application in that time or a separate browser, but it was not there where the people were working. Let's say in the shop floor or in Salesforce or in SAP. I think it was not where they needed the help and the process knowledge. So really bringing it into that space where the people are, where the users are. Not to say that it must be, okay, all of us are wearing glasses, so that processes are in or close to our eyes. But I think that's the other way where I see ARIS going, that we bring it to everyone where it needs it.
So you're going to be bringing BPM to the masses. I like that as a
absolutely. I think that's a fantastic outlook, because that's what I think we all wish. No, but
of course we do.
Bringing BPM to the people and make it democratizing the whole BPM, not just from an input but from an output. So making it accessible. And I really like these ideas around, well, let's say hands off. Yeah, it's not going to be like complete, like now they have in California self-driving taxis, but like a hands off mode. I really like that idea, and I think that's a great vision to have and moving forward from here.
Brilliant. Now I need to I have the role of timekeeper typically. So Russell is the prompter, I'm the timekeeper. So we got to wrap this up. Unfortunately, time's over, and we need to let Marc enjoy his evening coming back from Spain. Marc, it was an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much for your insights and your openness. Russell, any last remarks before we say goodbye?
No, absolutely. It was fantastic. And again, the shout out to anybody out there listening to this show. If you have questions to Marc, you know where to find him. On LinkedIn, or give us a shout out over questions at BPM360podcast.com. We'd love to have an interaction and a dialogue here. That's what it's all about. And take care. And yes, enjoy your evening. Thanks a lot for having me.
Marc.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.